Picture this. Russia spends 2 full months grinding through Ukrainian territory in Zaporizhzhia, village by village, soldier by soldier, at a cost that strains even the Kremlin's war budget. It builds forward positions, stages infiltration units, plants flags in settlements, and tells Moscow the summer 2026 offensive is on track. Then, in the span of 5 days, Ukraine erases all of it. Every meter, every settlement, gone. This is not a hypothetical. This just happened. And the speed, the precision, and the strategic genius behind it make this one of the most important battlefield developments of the entire war. Welcome to World Brief Daily. If you are not yet subscribed, do it right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update like this one, because what we are about to break down for you goes far beyond the headlines. We are going to give you the full picture. What happened, how it happened, why it happened, and what it means for everything that comes next. Let us start with the numbers, because they tell a story that should have the Kremlin losing sleep. Between February 11th and February 15th, 2026, Ukrainian forces recaptured 201 square kilometers of territory, roughly 77.6 square miles, from Russian control in the Zaporizhzhia region. As Agence France Presse reported based on analysis from the Institute for the Study of War, this is the largest territorial recovery Ukraine has achieved in any comparable time frame since its summer 2023 counteroffensive. That offensive was launched with the entire weight of Ukraine's military planning behind it, with massive international support and a declared strategic objective of pushing Russia back across multiple fronts. This one was different, very different. Ukraine has also torn a 9.5-kilometer scar through Russian defensive lines, what military analysts describe as a clean rupture of positions that Moscow believed it had consolidated. The territory now back under Ukrainian control stretches across dozens of settlements, including Kosiv, Teruvate, Priluki, Zolotaya, Raya, Vishva, Persrava, and others in the Zaporizhzhia region, all confirmed by Euromaidan Press. The scale is staggering. The speed is even more remarkable. And here is where it gets interesting. This was not a full-scale counteroffensive. Ukraine's own military experts are careful to say so. As Ukrainian military expert Andriy Kramarov told UNN, the correct framing is a defensive counterattack, not a counteroffensive. What Ukraine did was see a strategic window open and sprint through it before Russia could close it. Understanding that distinction is crucial to understanding just how brilliantly Kyiv has played this. So what opened that window? One word: Starlink. On February the 2nd, 2026, Ukraine, in collaboration with SpaceX, implemented a mandatory Starlink terminal verification system, a whitelist protocol that effectively cut off Russian forces from the unauthorized Starlink access they had been exploiting for battlefield communications, drone operations, and command and control functions. As reported by Euronews and confirmed by ISW, the consequences for Russian ground forces were near immediate and catastrophic. Russian military bloggers, the same pro-war voices that regularly boast about Moscow's advances, began reporting unprecedented communications failures within days of the cutoff. Command and control collapsed. Infiltration units lost coordination with their headquarters. Small groups of Russian soldiers who had been pushing forward into Ukrainian territory suddenly found themselves cut off, directionless, and vulnerable. As analyst Preston Stewart explained in his detailed breakdown of the Ukrainian breakthrough, Starlink had been a critical communication lifeline for Russia's infiltration strategy throughout 2025 and into early 2026. Russia's entire operational approach in this period relied on sending small units forward to establish weak footholds, then reinforcing and expanding those footholds through constant communication with command. Without that communication, those units became exactly what Ukraine wanted: isolated targets. Stewart's description of what happened next is blunt. Russia's infiltrators were left running around blind. They did not know where they were going. They did not know what they were supposed to do. They dug into whatever defensive cover they could find and hoped Ukrainian forces would not come for them. Ukraine came for them. But there is a second reason Ukraine was able to capitalize so decisively, and this one is about strategy, about the months of preparation Ukraine had put in before a single shot was fired in this counterattack. Ukraine's military had developed a new doctrine for dealing with Russia's infiltration tactics. Small, highly mobile Ukrainian units, platoon-sized, typically 12 to 20 soldiers, were trained specifically for seek and destroy operations against Russian infiltration groups. As Stewart explains, these units operate with extremely detailed intelligence on their specific area of operation. They are given a precise objective: move through this series of buildings, clear to a specific point, stop, regroup, advance again. It is methodical, it is precise, and it is ruthlessly effective against the light communication-dependent units Russia had been using. As Ukraine's Colonel Vladislav Volosyn, spokesperson for Ukraine's Defense Forces of the South, told Army Inform, "When we detect these groups that have infiltrated, we clear the settlements of them. I emphasize that these settlements were and remain under our control. The Russians did not control them. We are simply searching for these infiltrated flag stickers and destroying them." Flag stickers. That is what Ukraine's soldiers call the Russian infiltrators, units whose job is to plant a flag in a settlement, claim it for Russia, and hope that claim holds. It did not hold. Here is where it becomes even more revealing. The Russian Defense Ministry responded to this week of catastrophic territorial losses with silence. The official apparatus said nothing. It was left to Russian military bloggers to try to explain away what had happened, and most of them, according to Stewart, reported something resembling the truth. But one, a blogger named Yuri Podolyaka, chose a different path. He claimed that Ukrainian forces had failed to achieve their objectives and that Russian units had been fully prepared and successfully imposed their own counterplay. He went further, insisting that Ukraine's assault had been stopped across all areas of the front. This is the exact opposite of reality. And Stewart points out that Podolyaka's claims directly contradict what his fellow Russian military bloggers were reporting at the same time. The contradiction is so stark that it suggests one of two things. Either Podolyaka is deliberately misleading his audience, or he fundamentally misread the scale of what Ukraine was doing. Given that Podolyaka framed Ukraine's actions as a massive counteroffensive similar to summer 2023, the second explanation is plausible. He looked at what Ukraine was doing and assumed it was trying to achieve something it was not. That misreading tells you something important about the elegance of Ukraine's actual strategy. Before we get deeper into that strategy, a quick moment. World Brief Daily exists to give you this level of analysis. Not the headline, not the tweet, but the full operational and strategic picture. If you find this kind of depth valuable, subscribe to the channel right now and make sure notifications are on. We drop content like this regularly, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Now, let us talk about what Ukraine is actually trying to achieve here, because this is where it gets truly brilliant. Ukraine is not trying to storm across Zaporizhzhia Oblast and retake Melitopol. It is not trying to reach the Sea of Azov. It has no intention of launching a mass armored assault that would require tens of thousands of soldiers and years of preparation. What Ukraine is doing is something far more strategically elegant. It is stabilizing the front line. As Euromaidan Press reports, Ukraine deliberately limited its operations to the tactical zone, the gray zone, the fluid territory where fighting was already ongoing. It did not try to break deep. It tried to take back everything Russia had grabbed in the gray zone, reinforce that territory, and convert it into a defensive infrastructure that will bleed Russian forces for months to come. Why now? Because Russia is planning a major summer offensive for 2026. Kyiv officials confirmed this to Euronews, noting that the Russian military command is preparing offensive operations toward the Orikhiv-Zaporizhzhia city direction, or possibly the Slovyansk-Kramatorsk direction, or both. Russia's plan, as reported by the Kyiv Post, involves deploying approximately 100,000 soldiers from its strategic reserves to drive this offensive. And the territory Russia spent from summer 2025 through early 2026 capturing in Zaporizhzhia was intended to serve as the staging ground for that very push. Ukraine just took that staging ground away. As military analyst Konstantin Mashovets, whose assessments are regularly cited by the Institute for the Study of War, noted, Ukraine's goal is explicitly not to consolidate for a deeper push. It is to disrupt Russia's timeline for the summer offensive. Russia was already struggling, as Euronews reported, to capture the forward positions it needed to launch that offensive on the Kremlin's intended schedule. Ukraine has now taken several of those positions back and has the ability to fortify them, turning them from Russian launch pads into Ukrainian kill zones. Think about what that means for Putin's operational planning. The territory Russia spent months capturing must now be recaptured before the summer offensive can even begin. Every soldier and every resource Russia commits to that recapture is drawn from the strategic reserves earmarked for the offensive itself. As ISW assessed in mid-February, these Ukrainian counterattacks have likely disrupted Russian momentum and delayed offensive operations toward Orikhiv city from the east. British military intelligence made the same assessment as reported by Sandbox, stating that Ukraine's actions have set Russian timelines back in ways Moscow will struggle to recover from before the summer fighting season begins. This is a classic strategic trap. Russia now faces an impossible dilemma. If it deploys strategic reserves to retake the liberated territory, the summer offensive is weakened before it even starts. If it leaves the territory in Ukrainian hands, those positions will be fortified. Fortified positions are extraordinarily costly to assault, and the offensive becomes functionally impossible at the scale Putin has demanded. Either choice hurts Russia. Neither choice fixes the problem. Ukraine has engineered a catch-22 situation and forced Moscow into it with 5 days of brilliant, precise, opportunistic military action. Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton, speaking to Fox News Digital, put it directly, "As this war grinds on, the world too often forgets that Ukraine's determination, innovation, and moral clarity are force multipliers. Its ability to defend against a larger, better resourced enemy should never be counted out. There are growing signs that Russia's supposed invincibility is no longer a safe assumption." That is the view from retired senior American military leadership. The on-the-ground reality confirms it. Now, is Ukraine finished? Probably not quite yet. According to Stewart's analysis, the settlement of Uspanivka may be Ukraine's next objective in this operation, and there is strong operational logic behind that. Uspanivka has been under Russian control since early November 2025 and has served as a key logistics node, a hub through which Russian assault operations deeper into Zaporizhzhia Oblast are channeled. Capturing it would sever that logistics line, further degrade Russia's ability to reconstitute its positions, and deepen the defensive buffer Ukraine is building. After Uspanivka, Ukraine's focus will almost certainly shift entirely to preparation for summer. And that preparation involves something the data makes very clear: fortification. The liberated territories will not be left as open terrain. They will be converted into layered defensive nodes, hardened positions from which Ukrainian forces can observe, target, and destroy Russian units attempting to push forward. As Euronews reports, kill zones extending as far as 15 kilometers are being established. Every meter Russian forces advance from here will be watched, targeted, and contested. A drone could always be watching. The broader picture is equally significant. As analysis published by The Lowdown explains, what Ukraine has executed is being called the Zaporizhzhia Run, an advance that has pushed Russian forces back roughly 300 kilometers in certain sectors of Zaporizhzhia and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts combined, forced the Kremlin to redeploy forces from other front sectors, including Pokrovsk, and revealed that much of what Russia claimed as territorial gains in late 2025 was in reality nothing more than forward reconnaissance by small units that were never capable of holding the territory they occupied. In other words, Russia was counting flags it never actually planted, and Ukraine has now demonstrated that conclusively to everyone watching. As Ukraine Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky confirmed, Ukrainian defense forces in the Oleksandrivka direction have regained control over 400 square kilometers of territory and 8 settlements since the end of January. That is not a week's work. That is a campaign, a deliberate, patient, methodical campaign that waited for the perfect window and then seized it with both hands. There is also a diplomatic dimension to this that cannot be ignored. As 1945 and other outlets have reported, trilateral peace talks involving U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were convening in Geneva as this battlefield breakthrough unfolded. Vladimir Putin was reported to be demanding 2,000 square miles of the Donetsk region. President Zelensky, under pressure from President Trump to come to the table quickly, was proposing a demilitarized zone rather than total territorial cession. Into this diplomatic moment, Ukraine inserted 201 square kilometers of battlefield reality. The message was precise: Ukraine's hand is stronger than the map suggests, and the ground is still moving. This is Ukraine's war logic operating on multiple levels simultaneously. Battlefield, strategic, and diplomatic pressure applied at exactly the right moment. What we are watching in Zaporizhzhia is not just a military success. It is a demonstration of institutional military learning, of the ability to adapt doctrine under fire, of the power of intelligence-driven small unit operations, and of a strategic vision that extends well beyond the current week's fighting into the summer and beyond. Ukraine's military has not simply reclaimed territory, it has reclaimed the initiative. It has forced Russia to react rather than act. It has bought itself time and destroyed Russia's timeline. For Putin, this is not just an embarrassment on the ground, it is a strategic dislocation. Commanders who filed glowing reports about territorial gains must now explain those losses. Officers who guaranteed the summer offensive timeline would be met must now revise their projections. And the 100,000 soldiers intended for that offensive now face a strategic landscape that has shifted against them before they take a single step. For Ukraine, this is proof of concept. Small, smart, communication-savvy units can outmaneuver Russia's larger but poorly coordinated forces. Gray zone territory claimed by Russian infiltrators is not permanent. The battlefield is not static. And the right combination of opportunity, preparation, and precision can produce strategic results that no one watching the day-by-day grind of this war would have predicted. We will, of course, keep you updated on every development as this situation evolves. The next phase, whether it is Ukraine taking Uspanivka, Russia attempting to claw back lost territory, or the broader summer offensive dynamic coming into focus, will unfold in the weeks ahead. And World Brief Daily will be here to break it all down for you. If this analysis gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in this war, then do something about it. Subscribe to World Brief Daily. Enable your notifications. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what is at stake, because this story is far from over, and the next chapter may be even more consequential than everything we have just covered. Thanks for watching.